I know that a lot of us absolutely love BMW, but I'm going to say this right now is the inspiration for today's video makes me really believe that the people running BMW at the very top, or at least some people in certain regions at the top level, make the company trash. And just to give you guys some clarity on what I'm talking about here, today's inspiration comes to us from Vehicle Viral. So this video right here is the inspiration about the new G87 M2. This is the inspiration for today's video. And the reason why is because he, along with it seems like a lot of people for the new M2 platform, I'm not sure if it's all of the new G chassis 2 series, but a lot of the people specifically with the M2 have seemed to said something along the lines of, generally when it's at a slow speed and they're coming to a complete stop, something happens along the lines of the car will abruptly stop, or it will make a really harsh like vibration, and then it will come to a screeching halt. The way that it sounds on the video seems like it's the auto start stop function, but from what he's saying, it seems more like the rotors are warped. And there have been so many people, common issue from the diagnosis to the solution is replace the rotors at the very least, and then sometimes you need to replace the pads. So what the issue that he had was, obviously it's a new car, so it's under warranty, right? But, you know, when he took it in, he had like a stud conversion kit and he had some other modifications to his car. So I think, for instance, like he had a carbon fiber brace on his car. So this isn't his exact car, but essentially you can take my car, for example. You know, it's a base model 2 series. So obviously it doesn't have the M carbon brace or the aluminum brace on the top. It doesn't have, you know, things like the metal oil filter cap. And there are other supportive modifications here for this modification, like the landing plate, the camber plates, the plate on top of the strut mount. But what BMW in his area, I think he's located in Florida, said that, oh, in order for us to honor the warranty, you need to remove the stud conversion kit. You need to remove he had a Haas lowering kit from KW, I believe. And he also had spacers from Dynon. They said all those things are probably what's causing the issue with your car. Now, for those of you who are mechanics out there, you know that none of this stuff is going to cause that issue, right? So from the video, even if you thought it was the auto start stop function, nothing as far as the drivetrain, as far as the communication electrically would cause it to stop abruptly. If you're talking about slow speed braking, which in his case, I believe that it is, what he hasn't posted an update to it, but from what he was saying is it seems like it's at very low speed. When he brakes, it comes to that abrupt stop. A stud conversion kit, spacers, and, you know, a lowering spring kit is not going to cause any of that, right? If it doesn't happen at high speeds, all of those parts are essentially static, right? So what would cause it to act up? If it doesn't happen all the time, why would, you know, you have to remove these things? And I understand that BMW wants their cars a certain way for the warranty, but to me, it's essentially, you know, as a professional, all the years that you have under your belt, as well as all of the years from previous technicians, everything, all that knowledge packed into one, you know for a fact that a stud conversion kit, spacers, and some lowering springs are not going to cause that kind of abrupt stop. And so he had to remove all of the things. And they still said, oh, you know what, we can't because you did do these things. And if I warranty it, then BMW is going to give me a hard time. To me, it makes people not want to buy your product anymore because you don't stand by it. It's one thing if it's directly correlated, like if you did a big brake kit and something like that happened, then potentially, yeah, that has something to do with it. However, it's like saying that just to make the case extreme, it's like you put up window tint and they said, oh, that's causing the breaking. You have to take off the tint before we do anything with it. So it's the problem that I have is you're selling something or you're marketing something in your sales pitch, and then you're not honoring it when it comes due, right? There are other people who've had this problem. You could call their dealerships and ask them what the solution was, and figure it out, right? If this is the first case that they had. But for me, the issue that I have with BMW doing this is it's a known issue, there's a known solution, and you're finding excuses to not honor the warranty, right? It'd be like anybody else selling something. A lot of people have gotten mad at me for saying that my old set of wheels, my Oddhons, should have been warranted because I hit that pothole. Well, in their previous warranty claim, that should have been covered. And then the whole issue of people saying, oh, it's ridiculous for you to have that kind of expectation. Well, I have the expectation because the warranty said to have that expectation, right? And it's the same thing here. BMW probably advertises, oh yeah, if anything happens, you can bring it back, no problem. Yeah, you can do X, Y, Z, and as long as it's not relatable, then we'll fix it. And then all these excuses come up when the bill comes due. That's my issue. And this is one of the things why I'm willing to let like brand new owners, in this case it happens to be him, but I'm willing to let the original owner take the hit on all of these things, and then us as a second or third owner kind of get the benefits of not having to run into these issues. And the thing is that I feel like BMW really underappreciates their consumer base, because they do little nitpicky things like this when they know from all their years of experience, it's not like they're a brand new company. They have established technicians teaching younger technicians and so on and so forth for a very long time. So they know what's kind of going on with these cars, and it's not like their tech changes all that much. If you look at like the G80 moving from the F80, a lot of the suspension stuff is very similar. The architecture is very similar. They don't change much. Sure, they might change the length of a certain arm. They might change, how the subframes are slightly designed, but more or less they're borrowing the same mold and just tweaking a few things here and there. So, the consumer base, like we still put into BMW after things like known issues like the oil filter housing gasket. That's been bad since like the E90 generation. The Mickey Mouse flange, that has been around again since like, I believe it's like the E90, could be earlier. Valve cover gasket, same thing. All of these issues. So they're trying to nitpick somebody like us, the consumer, when yet they have these known issues that have been around for over a decade and haven't done anything to address them. So to me, this really does hurt their brand. And I still believe that they produce really well-maintained cars or well-handling cars, but this is why I usually advocate buy used, get a car that's like past the break-in period, and let the original owner take the hit on all of that, right? Also, too, is there's going to be more information out there. There's going to be people who have solved these nitpicky issues. And so you'll have the information readily available to fix them if anything comes up versus you having to be the one to fix it. Now, if you have the excess funds, right? If you have it within your budget to get a brand new car and to deal with these issues, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But I think that we're living in a day and age now where a lot of people are paycheck to paycheck, prices of everything is going up, and it's just getting harder and harder for like the common working class. So I would say don't get too caught up. I mean, there was Beamer invasion in LA last week. And I'm sure there's a lot of people with like the new G chassis cars, and there's still a lot of us roaming around with the F chassis. Don't kind of get suckered into like the FOMO of everything and saying, I need a new car to fit in. I need a new car to impress people. I need a new car to win the show or whatever it is. Because the F chassis, probably by now, even if we're talking about the B58s, almost everything has been done to them, whether it be modifications, improvements, or fixing a common issue. Pretty much, I would say with the exception to things that have like touched the 200,000 milestone mark, any issue that comes up, the information to solve it should be readily available to us. And also too is like when a car is brand new, aftermarket parts like a Mickey Mouse flange is common, but something like an upgraded oil thermostat, right? Metal valve covers, or some companies even do silicone gaskets, right? To get the mold for those specific cars, for those specific gaskets, for those specific parts, to upgrade them, to make them better, to make them more durable, takes time. And so a lot of people who get the car for the first time, they're part of the initial R&D, and sometimes the fit and finish isn't the best. And so us as the consumer get to benefit from the new owners of these cars, not just that they go through the warranty process, they go through all the headache, they take up all the initial costs usually, but they're also the people who we should be thankful for that go through the R&D of these things. Like Vehicle Virals, a lot of the carbon stuff on his car, a lot of it was given to him, I'm sure, but a lot of it was because it was given because it was R&D. It was like, we're not sure if this is going to fit. By our measurements, it should. So we'll give you, a beta sample, and if it fits, great. If not, let us know your feedback and we'll send you another set, and that whole process continues until everything is done. But I think that this will hurt BMW as far as people wanting to buy into their product right away. If they're nitpicky on the warranty, if they keep producing plastic parts, not just here, but also we've put up with things like charge pipes, turbo inlet pipes, plastic intercoolers, radiator tanks. We've been dealing with this issue for a very long time, and BMW still produces it, and yet we still buy them. But eventually the demand will go down because BMW, yes, they're going to go into their luxury aspect of things, and maybe they're focusing on a different consumer base. But, whatever your feelings are, I would feel that to a certain extent, BMW is going to lose its most passionate user base if they keep doing things like this, because people will just buy used cars that are modified or whatever. So there will be less money for them going into the new cars. That means there's less money to go into their R&D, into the production of the new cars, because they don't really get all the benefits of a car when it's sold used, especially if it's on the private market. A lot of their money is going to be made when they sell a brand new car. So if they can't sell as much brand new cars, they don't have as much for R&D on the back end. And I kind of attribute this to, I think people on YouTube have known this for a long time, but I think like big conglomerate companies like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and then you can go into like news stations, like a lot of establishment businesses with an old business model, they're starting to realize what a lot of us who've been in the online space have known for a while, and that is, don't neglect your core audience base. And BMW has been saying for a while now that they're going to move away from the manual transmission. And then there was a report that I just saw yesterday, I can pull it up, but Porsche is going to continue making manual transmissions and gas-powered cars for as long as they possibly can. And people from the BMW space have already started leaning towards Porsche if they can't get what they want from a BMW, especially when they're looking at, okay, if I'm going to modify it to get it to where I want to be, like that's already kind of like a Porsche right there. And so Porsche is going to steal that audience base. Because I'm in the financial space, I kind of like look at the markets and things like that. And then I look at companies that like Shark Tank and I wonder why. A good example is like Blockbuster. Blockbuster, for those of you guys who are younger, it's a thing where people used to like rent DVDs or VHS tapes, and they were so slow to jump into the digital market that they just disappeared, right? They went out of business. So like I think Redbox was like one of the main competitors. But again, Redbox is a physical product. It's cheaper, yes, but it's still a physical product. And then you have things like Netflix, Hulu, they came out and now they own the space, right? Now, another good example is Kodak, right? Kodak was, believe it or not, they were the biggest camera company back in the day. And they were actually the first to produce a digital camera, or at least the very first to have the inclination to produce a digital camera. And the original engineer who produced it to Kodak said, you know, I think that this would be a great thing. But at that time, Kodak's bread and butter was selling like printed photos, right? You go to the store, you give them your roll of film, and then they produce the photos for you. And Kodak laughed him out of the building. That guy ended up running over to Sony, and then Sony said, yeah, digital, why not? And to flood the market with their digital cameras. And now when you look at them, even when we're looking into the mirrorless space, like Canon, who owned that space for a long time, I think Nikon still has a pretty good stranglehold on people who do like just portrait photography. But Canon was like a monster in that area. And now Sony is kind of taking them over, or slowly taking them over, because they do photo and video. Whereas Canon's like, no, we're just going to focus on photo, and we're going to handicap our video aspects of the camera. They had the technology, right? They had the engineers, they had all of those things, but they refused to do it. And I mean, it's been a while since I shopped around, but I would be remiss if I said that Canon had anything similar to like a Sony a7 III or even a Sony a7 IV for video and photo purposes, right? And so I feel like BMW is starting to fall into that same pitfall. It's really astonishing. I mean, for those of you who are even older, like AOL used to be kind of like, if you imagine it, like very close to like Google or Yahoo. Yahoo's kind of going out too, right? They're so focused on their current bread and butter that they're not looking into the future as far as how will this affect our user base? Will this be able to retain our user base, but also extend into other markets, right? And so I feel like BMW should know like what works, what doesn't work. I understand like some people can say whatever they want about BC Racing, but BC Racing is a really good, affordable brand. But if BMW said, you know, we don't want any brands that are kind of at that tier, if you install something like a KW is not, you know, a flash in the pan kind of company, right? They're not like brand new. They have a lot of R&D into track cars. They have a lot of R&D with not just BMW, but with other platforms. Like they are a very reputable company. And if you put on a set of their coilovers, right? And I'll be honest, like when it comes to camber plates, there's really only a couple of companies that I would say that are like really reputable. One is going to be Vorschlag. You guys know that I've worked with them in the past. You have Milway, and the last one, I always forget it, but it's there's one more. But a lot of the other companies will, you know, leverage one of these three to make their own. Like Turner does a lot of like, hey, we'll shoot you some money, or you can make us like a lower tier item and we'll stamp our name on it and we'll give you commission. I think they do that with like their control arms and their end links with SPL. They do a lot of that. And so like Turner, ECS, these are companies that do a lot of R&D. So if you're going to slap, you know, Dynon, right? Dynon used to be partnered with BMW. So to me, if you have a reputable company's products on your car that have been proven to work with BMWs, then what should be the issue, right? Plus, you could always like scan it, right? I understand that sometimes like something like in my car, like what's set up now is like it's like a little bit of a Frankenstein. It's Vorschlag camber plates on the top. It's a KW strut, and we have Swift springs to support it. I understand if they don't want to do something like this because it's, you know, different brand, different brand, different brand, and then it's on a BMW, right? I understand that, but you're telling me that you don't want to warranty something from a KW that doesn't even have anything to do with the car itself. To me, that would really hurt the brand. I don't know what your guys' opinions are on this, but to me, it seems like a lot of these companies since about 2020 have been really trying to get a grasp on or move away from the model of the customer is always right, which to a certain extent I do disagree with. The customer is not always right, but there should be some sort of middle ground in terms of, yes, we know that you modified your car, but the problem that you're presenting to us has nothing to do with what you did, right? Technically, we could probably say that it does and make you do a little bit of jumping through hoops, but we know through our experience, the likelihood of this modification actually causing this problem is not all that likely, right? And so, like I said, it hurts us who really want to modify the car, right? Like I have M4 seats in my car, no coating issues or whatever. You know, I did the brace, the Mosselman oil thermostat, like a lot of things like this. It's like you would have to wait for it to be out of warranty for you to do anything. So this is why I usually recommend, like, don't buy a new car, because to a certain extent, you're going to be sold on the warranty and then you can't do all of these upgrades. And then, you know, some people are going to say, oh, well, you know, you voided the warranty or whatever. But to a certain extent, the car has a price tag, right? There should be somewhere in there, right? If you're going to modify your car and take the chance on it and do all of that, then you should tell them. You should be able to tell the dealership, like, hey, I don't want the warranty because I know that you guys aren't going to honor it. So lower the price of the car, right? They always sell you on that service package. They always sell you on the warranty. So if they're selling you on that, if it's an upsell, then they should be able to remove it, right? Because yeah, it's under warranty, but you bought it. It's your car, right? It would be almost like saying you put aftermarket parts on your car, got into an accident, and your insurance company said, oh, well, you know, we cover the car from factory, so the OEM parts only, right? It's your fault that you got into the accident because you put all these aftermarket stuff on there, so we won't cover anything. I mean, that's the way that I see it. And so I think BMW can do a much better job. I think that they still have a very dedicated user base and fan base that supports them. But if they keep doing things like this, I think that it does like hurt the brand overall, especially if they're going to move away from like performance cars and lean more into the luxury line of things. Porsche will be more than happy to take that user base from them. And like I said, if they want to be nitpicky when it comes to the warranty, how come they're not nitpicky on themselves for still using those plastic components that have been known to break a lot, the gaskets that have been known to fail? The Mosselman oil thermostat, like it sends the oil down to the oil cooler like 20 degrees sooner, but you're still reaching operating temps at the same time. Like BMW should know about this. Not to mention that the oil thermostat is from a previous generation too. So they're just kind of copy and pasting a lot of the parts and like expect us to pay that new price tag. I'm sure it's not just BMW, but a lot of car brands. I mean, I only know about BMWs, so that's what I can speak to. But I am interested to see what other people feel about this. So let's open it up. US Vision, I would be afraid to buy the first generation of any car because of the bugs. Yep, exactly. So that's another good point, right? The G87, it's a very, very new platform. And therefore, if you wanted it brand new, then maybe you buy the LCI version or like the second batch of the LCIs. Let it kind of hang out there for a while. RGN TV, I prefer auto in BMW. Automatic transmission? Yeah, I mean, actually, I think they're moving away from dual clutch too. I mean, the 8-speed automatic transmission is very reliable. It's easy to work on. There's so much technology out there. People know how to work on them. So I guess. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's with, it's all preference, right? I prefer manual in most things, just because you have more control. All right. I feel like with auto, no matter how good it is, sometimes you're just not in the gear that you want to be at the time that you want to be in that gear. So I just prefer the control. Sure, you can relax a little bit more, and I think it also depends on how you use the car, right? For like long distance commutes in a good amount of traffic, then yeah, auto is going to probably be better for most people. US Vision, Manual Gearbox Preservation Society, need to get one of those shirts. Love the hell out of my manual MT35i. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can reach out to them. I've seen their stuff. I actually follow them on Instagram. Yeah, I'll reach out to them. Yeah, I love some of their like memes and stuff like that. Use Jim. Rich, you know I'm triggered by you showing that charge pipe after this weekend at PTSD. Thanks for the support as I was trying to fix it. Yeah, no problem, man. Glad I was able to help. Yeah, the charge pipe. Let's see here. For those of you, so I'm gonna very much just oversimplify, but usually aftermarket charge pipes are broken up into 3 segments. So it's not exactly, but it's just gonna make us visualize it in our minds a little easier. Is we have a metal part up here, we have a metal part down here, and then they're joined by a silicone coupler. So what US Vigim and we were trying to figure out is why there was a leak. And it's because the silicone coupler is pretty short for the gap that it needs to cover. So what we found was it was best to put on the bottom, put on the top, and then there's a little lip. So imagine this first rib here on each one is like a little lip on the metal pipe. So you have to get the silicone coupler where it's like just over that. And then there should be just enough room to get the clamp where it sits just in front of the rib. And then the rest of the middle is a silicone coupler. So if you don't have it just right, depending on which brand you go with, it can cause a leak, or slowly over time, it'll kind of like push itself out. So I'm glad that he figured it out. Jammer, thanks for the super chat. The bleeding edge cut. Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's like you charge so much, not just for the car, but for the service, right? You're charging like $300 an hour. And in all honesty, because they have all of the technical information, they have all the user manuals, like they are the original manufacturers, BMW can afford to cheap out and buy like, or hire brand new techs right out of school. You know, they can have their veteran techs teach them the ways. They have all the torque specs. They know the sequence of torque. They know, or they have all the diagnostic tools. And they're charging $300 an hour, and they're probably not paying the brand new tech all that much money. And they get all the money from selling a brand new car. And on top of that is, like I said, a lot of their R&D, it's not brand new stuff, right? They borrow, like a lot of the stuff from the N54 moved over to the N55, which moved over to the B58 and the S55 platforms, right? Like the actual chassis is very similar. The subframes are a little bit different. Some of the mounting hardware is like the same. A lot of the parts are the same. Like some of the gaskets are the same, right? Like the The valve cover gasket, if I'm not mistaken, is very similar on the cars, or if not identical. The oil pan gasket is the same. And so for them to kind of, be very nitpicky here, but then not be nitpicky with themselves, it's very much a double standard. And this is what people don't like. Um, I think when I was in college, there was a study that showed like you could have two dogs, right? You could feed them at different times, right? So you would have them both at their normal, like regular feeding time. And I think the study found that if you feed one of the dogs first and they're absolutely full, right? So you give them so much food that they don't finish what you give them. The moment you start to feed the other dog will like salivate and be really hungry because they perceive that there's some sort of unfairness, right? Even though that they just ate, even though that they're full, even though that they don't want to eat anymore. And I think the study even like, okay, like when they start to show that they want to eat some more, they give them more and they don't really eat. It's just the perception of being unfair that they don't like. And I think that us as customers feel the same way. So, Jammer, yeah, if we're talking about the same thing, I definitely feel it. US Vision, my last auto experience with BMW was my 2010 328xi with the trash GM transmission. Learned a lot about transmission from that car. Oh yeah, and then BMW also, this reminds me, like their automatic transmission has a plastic pan. Like I understand that BMW wants to save as much money as possible because they have their own plastic plant. They have their own carbon fiber plant, and yet they charge so much for these parts. It's like you're making this in-house from a mold that you had from 2 generations ago. And like, it's going to fail, right? Like, that it's going to fail. You just want people to, and this is to me shows that there's money in the service fee, that they will make money from selling the part, but what they really want to make money from is from you coming back and from them servicing you. This is why they don't make a metal Mickey Mouse flange or a metal oil pan for their automatic transmissions. Some of their oil pan gaskets, not just the transmission, are also plastic. They should just be making metal components like they had been for so many years, like they still do on the manual transmissions. And yet they do this because they want you to come back. There's no other way for me to think otherwise, because if they say, oh, well, it costs more for R&D, for production value. Well, guess what? You already have the mold. People, if they're willing to drop that much money on a brand new car, you don't think that they're willing to spend a few more dollars, a few $100s, or maybe even a few $1,000s more to get a metal transmission pan, a metal oil pan? You can't convince me otherwise that you putting plastic on those components is for longevity and is for the customer's benefit. Oh, we cut costs. Yeah, because you know that it's going to come back. So if you charge 60% of what you would for a metal one when you use plastic, and then you charge them another one, you not only make back what you would have if you got a metal one, but you also get the service fee. So it's little, I feel like it's very like unethical is what I would call it. Just charge them whatever it is the first time and let that be it. Yeah, so I'm not too happy with how they're treating, I actually don't even know his real name. I should figure it out. Vehicle Virals. US Vidjum. What I would add to your VSF video is to really tighten the clamp more than you think. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, because once you have it on, because of the lip, it's not going to go anywhere. So exactly what US Vidjum is saying. So let me see here. So if the rib is like on this water bottle, right, and the clamps are here, the silicone, if anything, it will want to compress and bring in the clamps. But because you have the little ridge here, it's only going to run up against the edge. There's almost no chance of it backing out this way, right? Because the silicone is somewhat elastic. So it's going to want to pull towards the center where it would have to clear the rib in order to do it. So if it's not tight enough, then it could slip, and then that's what could cause it to come in. So thank you for suggesting that. JP, what tire pressure should I run on Toyo R880 or R888 RSs coming from Nitto NT555 R2 drags on 25 psi? I think it really depends on your use purposes. I run, if I'm not mistaken, I run 35 all around on a square setup. So I would say it depends. It also depends on your tire configuration. So I'm on a 235 40 18 and run 35 all around. I've run 35 on that setup. I've run 35 on 225 40 as well as 245 35, which I probably could have ran it a little higher, like 38 or 40. But I think it really depends on your use case scenario. 25, I wouldn't run 25 on a street car unless your sidewalls are much higher than mine. Wipe your detail. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Greg, hey Fritz, thanks for all your support. Been enjoying the content. Anyways, I'm noticing a high-pitched whining noise that increases with RPM and goes back down when I shift gears. Dual clutch transmission. Let's see here. I am wondering if this could be turbo, tranny, or differential, or something else. Or on hard acceleration, it can sound like a supercharger whine, just not as loud. Thoughts? It doesn't happen always. It's hard to tell. Like when you say, when high pitch whine noise to me, I would check your PCV. So you could also like have the car off and like test if it holds vacuum. The whine, it depends too on what kind of whine. If it doesn't happen always, I'm skeptical to say that timing chain. Transmission, I feel like it would be a little deeper because the sound would be coming from inside, so it would kind of like echo a little bit. It wouldn't be so prominent. Turbo is mostly like a rattling type of sound from what I've heard. Differential should be really easy. Like if you can hear it more from the rear, then probably differential. But if it sounds louder towards the front of the car, then you can eliminate that. But I say that it could be the PCV. Like it doesn't happen all the time because like that diaphragm, like when it starts to fail, like there can be some kind of condensation and moisture that settles there. So that condensation, if the diaphragm is loose, could kind of get it to stick on occasion. And depending on how worn it is, like some parts of it could get clogged and cause a complete blockage, and then sometimes it won't. So I think I just did like a short video not too long ago on like how to use a tester. You only really need to test it for like 5 seconds. So just get it to vacuum, and then if it doesn't hold for like 5 seconds, then you're okay. Oh, sorry. If it doesn't hold, then it's the PCV. And you can go to something like a Ross Racing PCV delete if your valve cover is in good condition, because in all honesty, if you get the Ross Racing PCV delete, it's like $300, and then you get a new gasket for your valve cover when the time comes, then that's only like $350 versus like a brand new one is like almost $500. Whitebeard detail, MHD or BM3. I did a little bit of research on this, and I found that it's kind of similar. As far as like the actual performance of it, um, there's a third one out there that seems to be a little bit more aggressive. I think if you like um, the ability to adjust it on your phone, I think BM3 is a little bit better than that than MHD. And I think you also have the resale value of the BM3 plus a lot of tuners, but I think the tuners are moving between platforms now. I think BM3 still has more tuners than MHD. As a side note, BeamerTech has released a tune, and I'm testing it out for them. The way that I would put this is, if I haven't run MHD, so I can't say it, but if the reviews are accurate and they're very similar, BM3 is a little bit power hungry. So you have to be on the gas. Like when you're shifting, you have to be on the gas. Like you can't kind of like nudge it a little bit. I'm not saying that the gas pedal is more sensitive. Like the car itself wants more gas. And so you kind of have to, give it the gas in order for it to work optimally. The BeamerTech tune, from just what I've experienced so far, is before the tune, I think we can all kind of admit, like especially on an N20 engine, like the power just isn't there, right? If you're in a manual transmission car, when you shift gears, you kind of have to shift slowly because it takes a while for everything to kind of catch up. With the tune, it's like everything is there and you can do it at a normal pace. You can speed it up if you want to, but everything kind of operates on a very smooth paced, even keel, right? The power's there when you want it. You don't have to rush. You don't have to slow down. It's just like relaxingly, it's all there. Whereas BM3, it's like, just go. Just kind of go. And it's not like the fastest thing in the world, but you do notice, like when I drive the cars back to back, now that both are tuned, my pace has to quicken in the 2 Series. And I noticed that before when the F30 was not tuned, just because I knew what to expect. But then once I was like, okay, like what I thought would be like my normal pace, I was like, oh no, I actually speed it up a little bit when I'm in the 2, and then when I'm in the 3, I'm like, okay, I can slow down. I don't have to consciously like move my feet faster, type of thing. US Fidgem. Hey Greg, I had a similar issue. Thought it was a PCV valve and it was a boost leak at the charge pipe. If it's constant, it could be valve cover. Okay, cool, right on. At least I'm not the only one. Mainly between first, second gear, and second and third. Yeah, it's hard to tell unless it's in person. Yeah, you could test the PCV. You could check the charge pipe as US Fidgem did, and just go from there. He did like a vacuum test too, so that could that might be able to point you in the right direction. Whitebeard detail. What is a true maintenance at 100K other than plugs, filters, and liquids? Plugs, filters, liquids, coils. You could just check the common leak areas like the valve cover, the oil filter housing gasket, the oil cooler gasket. 100K, you could also start to inspect the oil cooler lines, like what a lot of people neglect, like when they do an upgraded oil cooler or they do the thermostat, is they neglect the lines in between. They're a rubber line. They are a beefier rubber line, but they are still a rubber line, so you could inspect those. You could inspect your suspension components, make sure all the bushings are in order. I mean, I would say like the majority of what you just said is kind of taking the cake right there. Yeah, fluids taken care of, filters. Yeah, I mean, just kind of look at things that are kind of like in a high heat area, like those oil lines that I mentioned before. Is they run not extremely close, but one of them does kind of run close enough to the turbo, like it's on the hotter side of the engine bay. So anything I would say neighboring the turbo, just do a visual inspection there, right? Anything on the hotter side of the car, just take a good inspection there. Anything plastic, um, your coolant ass parts are closer to 70,000. So potentially you would have replaced them when you get to 100 already, and they're only like 30,000 in. But essentially, like your radiator, your coolant lines in general, especially the plastic ones, as well as the water pump, the thermostat. But again, that's more of the 70,000 versus 100. Greg, oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, it's not constant, but as I go above 2,500 RPM in the low gears, it's especially noticeable. I did notice that sometimes I wasn't getting the full power on the sport gauges. Full power. If I'm not mistaken, that could be the valve cover or the PCV. Because if I'm not mistaken, PCV is when it comes out, when the gas comes out of the PCV, it's when you're not under load. But if you're talking about above 25 RPM, that's where the gases come out from that port towards the front of the engine, the one that feeds into the turbo inlet pipe. It'll come out of there when the car's under load. So potentially, just give that a check. US Vigim, I can link my video of boost leak testing and see if it sounds the same to you. Mine always sounds like what you are describing. Yeah, please do. Please do link that. White beer detail. Is a catted downpipe just a catted downpipe, or should I get what I want, CG performance, or is CAD 200 CL CTS or VSF one good enough? I would say you just have to look at the reviews. Honestly, if you're going to go catted, I would go with a more reputable company because they're probably going to put more of the precious metals, like a better ratio of the precious metals and a more abundance of them to detoxify the gases with fewer cells. VRSF, I do recommend, like if you're just going to go catless, like, yeah, it's just a pipe at the end of the day, go with the cheapest thing available that fits. So like a Wagner, a CTS should be fine. VRSF, they are a cheaper brand, so I'm a little skeptical of their catted downpipe, but you could check forums and see what people have to say about them long term. You could always get uncatted and then just throw on your cat when it's time to smog too. That's what some people have said. I'll put it that way. Greg, it's weird because I replaced the charge pipe with full metal 2 weeks ago, plus turbo outlet pipe, front mount intercooler. You see that it wasn't installed properly. Would love to see the link. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily that it's installed improperly. It's just sometimes it's hard to, like the issue doesn't come up right away. Like you might feel like it's on fine and it doesn't, and it's not. Like my charge pipe in that video, I had to adjust it at least 3 times after that video in order to get it just right. Like it's like just small increments. Sometimes you get lucky right away. Other times it just takes a little bit. Fritz, is it okay to post a Reddit link on here? I think so. Yeah, I give it a shot and see if it works. I don't see why it should be an issue logistically. As long as the link works, I mean, I've shared links on here and I haven't had any issues. So But yeah, post it, and if it doesn't work, then at least we know. Greg, Houston, I just listened to your video on your channel. It sounds exactly okay. Only difference is that the sound goes back down in pitch when I shift gears. Okay. Let's see, did the PCV test and change the chart and change the PCV valve? On MHD, my sound was short bursts and changed as the boost dropped. Happened to me at 12 psi approximately. Hey, I like this. I mean, we're figuring it out. We'll figure it out. Let's see here. White beer detail. What I'm seeing is MHD is higher horse, BM3 is higher torque. Well, I think that you can adjust the values too in that. Like you can play with it. I guess it matters. For me personally, because I daily the car, I would prefer more torque versus higher horsepower. Like I'm usually never that on that end of things to really see a benefit. I would benefit more from a daily from having the torque. US Vision, not sure if BM3 has it, but MHD has anti-log and watt manual trans and manual shifting. Just scared to try both. I think Thick Whips has tried both, and this is where I'm getting the information from, is that he said it was very similar between the two. You guys can look up Kern. Let me see here. I think that's what his name is. No, it's not. So you can check out this video right here. He talks about the differences between them. Oh, MG Flasher, I think he said, is the most aggressive out of them. He said MHD and BM3 is very similar from what he said. So, oh, there's my cursor. Yeah, I would say go ahead, check out this video. He's really, really good. Like he's very technical. He's very knowledgeable. He does a lot of DIY stuff. So if you guys haven't checked him out yet, definitely check out his channel. US Vision, that Reddit video was with the tester at constant pressure. Okay, thanks for sharing it. Actually, I didn't even see the link for it. Maybe I just can't see it on my end for some reason. Greg, I see. Thanks for your 2 cents. I'm bringing it to my shop next week. There are no codes or anything, but after a 2-hour drive this weekend, I showed a buddy the car and he was like, that's weird. Your turbo sounds like a supercharger. Yeah, it might. Yeah. You could take it, but you could also just kind of like put your hand, like if it is like what US Vision is saying is put your hand where the silicone coupler meets the charge pipe and just make sure that both ends are properly sealed. If it's not, all that you have to do is loosen the clamp, adjust it a little bit, and then tighten it back down. Maybe it'll even save you a trip to the shop. A boost leak or smoke test would help. Glad you're taking in. I had no codes or check engine light. Yeah, for some reason, even I didn't have one either. I didn't go into limp mode or anything. It was so long ago when I did. I think I just read something on forums. I was like, just check it in the beginning until you finally get it to set. And so I was just checking it, and it took me a while to figure it out, the exact placement of it. But yeah, I didn't have any codes either. White beer detail. The CG Performance one is $1,000. LOL. Saw a video where it did make a difference. How much is BM3 nowadays? Let me see here. Oh, it's like 600 bucks, 500 bucks, 600 bucks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Plus you have the ability to resell it. I don't know if you get that from CG Performance. US Vision. I thought I installed my charge pipe and I should have adjusted like Fritz. At Stock Boost, there wasn't an issue. Hey, man, I mean, don't say it like me because I had to adjust it a few times too. So, I mean, we're all in the same boat here, man. I mean, it's just trial and error. And I'm glad to see that, you know, those of us with experience are willing to help out others. So I'm also glad to see that I'm not the only one experiencing this issue. And there's always more than one way to solve a problem. So I appreciate all the input and everybody sharing their experiences here. Wipe your detail. Okay, last question. It's okay, man. You can keep asking. Tires. Do you daily on a summer tire or do all season Continental Extreme Port V2 or DSW 06? I am currently on all seasons. I do prefer summer tires. I'm just kind of playing with it. Like when the all season 4s came out from Michelin, they were saying like, oh, they're like 80% as good, you know, in the dry, and you know, they're definitely better in wet and snow. I mean, I don't see snow here, but I was like, okay, you know, one, it's cheaper. And then when I started to do the fitment, when I started to like really try to dial in the fitment with the wheels and tires, I was thinking, okay, if I can get a all season tire to fit, I should be able to fit a summer tire. But my next goal is to throw on 245/40 all season 4S's with my current setup. I should be able to do it no problem, because it's just a little bit taller. So the way that I've been kind of testing this out, if as far as fitment goes, is if you want to get like wider tires or grippier tires, but you're not sure if it'll fit, one way to test it is just to, rather than saying going from 225 to 235, you go from a 225 summer tire to a 225 all season tire, same brand, right? Because then it'll be a little bit better, because usually the all season tires from a brand are taller than the same measured summer tire because the tread wear is thicker. So if you can get the summer counterpart to fit, then you can bump up to the next size in a summer tire. That way the increase isn't all that much. There's still room to play, and if you have adjustable coilovers, your adjustment should be able to accommodate any rubbing that happens. If you see a lot of rain or even a little bit of snow, then you go all season, I would suppose. Otherwise, just run the summer tires. I have no problem running summer tires because I never really see snow, and I don't see rain all that much. And summer tires, to a certain extent, perform just as well as all seasons in the wet, albeit until the temperature drops to a certain extent. For each brand, it's going to be a little bit different. But when it gets cold and wet, that's where the all season starts to take over in performance. If it's just wet, but the temperature's still pretty dry, summers do just as well, sometimes even better, depending on the brand. So I would say kind of take that into consideration. If you don't see much snow or wet, then you go with the summer tire. Wipe your detail. I'm leaning towards BM3. I've had it and it works well. The other thing that I like about BM3 is that it has the code reader along with the app. So that's one thing that I enjoy personally with it. So if you want it, and it's not like a super detailed scan tool. It's just that kind of like, oh, hey, if you have a code and you're at work and you want to just scan it, clear it really quick until you can get home to your real coder so it doesn't annoy you on the drive home, then that's kind of what you can expect from it. US Vidgem. MHD has been solid and their support has been great. N55 version was 580, easy to flash back. Okay, right on. Yeah, good to know. Yeah, because I mean, I can only test out so much, so I'm glad that you guys are providing input on things that I don't know or haven't tested. Pilot Sport 4S summer tires for the win in SoCal. Yeah, in SoCal. Yeah, no surprise there. Greg, I run MHD, and besides the wine, I really love the gauges that come in the app. Okay. That's interesting. I haven't seen anyone else bring that up really, at least on like YouTube videos. So that's a good one. I got the gauges to run my Android. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Man, now you guys are making me jealous. Let's see here. Greg, last question. It's okay, man. Don't worry about it. Next week, I'm getting a stainless steel braided brake cables. Any recommendations leaning for stop tech? Also, coolant flush plus new plugs plus downpipe sport cat arm motorsports so I can run stage 2. Okay. For stainless steel brake lines, if you're so I'll be honest, you really don't need them unless you're really going to track the car or if you're really in areas with like high debris. So my theory on stainless steel brake lines is the stainless steel aspect of it is the secondary component as to why I'm getting the lines. The primary focus is when you look at the line, let me see here. It should be relatively easy to install, and so I'm going to try to pull up a few different ones here. I'll even pull up the stop tech just so that we can all kind of be on the same page here. Yeah, okay. So this isn't going to be the clearest picture in the world, but and this is not a shot at any of these companies or whatever, but I mean, just look at it as an example. So here we have like regular stainless steel brake lines, and I think you're making a good choice by going to Stop Tech, by the way. Right, they're just threaded lines, which to me, like our regular brake lines are good enough for most cases. This is going to be a headache to install just because you have to account for the twisting of the thread. Like it's not easy to not have it kink. Like there's a sequence of events that you have to do in order to make sure that it goes on smoothly. Whereas like the stop techs, like right here, you can see like this is free floating, the part that connects here. So all that you have to do is connect this end. And then once you connect up this end, it'll be, it won't kink, right? So that's what you should look for is if you're going to do like a big brake kit, a benefit of upgrading your lines, I think, is the ease of installation when it comes to reinstalling the brake lines. The stainless steel feature, it's nice. Yes, is it a little bit more protective? Of course. But our brake lines are pretty good. And inside the wheel well, like kind of just how things are situated, it's not going to be prone to like debris cutting or whatever. There are cars out there, not just BMWs, but like my dad's old Toyota truck. It's like a 1997. He's never upgraded those brake lines and they're still holding fine. Like Toyotas or whatever that have been driven through like we've all seen like the really clapped cars, right? They're still running without stainless steel brake lines. So I would say if you're going to do it, spend a little bit more and make sure that you have the feature here where it doesn't kink on the other end. Like you just connect the one end and then it's kind of kink free after that. But I'm excited for you. Stage 2. Welcome to the club. Use Vision. Michelin Pilot Sport S5 preferred, but they aren't available except to manufacture. Yeah, that's true. I don't know why. But yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's weird. Maybe they're not confident in like the tech yet, or they're just kind of using the S5 as far as like maybe it's only in beta right now, so they're just waiting for the feedback. Edkin, here in East Coast, New Jersey, I do keep a set of winter tires and summer tires on the rims. Yeah, you have to over there because you get 4 seasons. So definitely need to change it out there. Usage, thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone. ECS stainless steel brake lines are GOAT, in my opinion. Okay, I gotta check them out then. Right on. Thanks for this recommendation. Greg, Whitebeard, the gauges are free in the app. I don't think you need to buy anything worth downloading now and checking. Okay, check that out then. Usage, did that Reddit link work? That's what the gauges look like. Got to run, gents. Have a great. Oh, you too, Usage. I didn't see a link. Hopefully you guys can see it on your end, but I can't see it. Let me scroll down to the bottom. Yeah. Not seeing the Reddit link. Maybe YouTube removed it. Maybe. Yeah, I didn't even see a link. Huh. Yeah, I'll try to connect with him, and then once the stream is done, I will link. I'll pin a link with or pin a comment with the link in there if I can. Whitebeard detail. I've purchased a turbo inlet pipe, intake resonator delete, Canon high flow air filter, heat exchanger, upgraded rotors. Oh my goodness, you're doing everything now. New spark plugs and B58 high pressure fuel pump. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think like intakes are like kind of a huge marketing scheme for cars with turbocharged now. It's just maybe a scoop and a high flow filter. That's all that you need. Greg, I'm in North Carolina, have lots of mountain roads, paranoid, but about losing brakes on Tail of Dragon or Little Switzerland / Blue Ridge Parkway. Ooh, I forgot who did that one. I think Justin did that route not too long ago. Yeah, I forget which video that he did. I think Justin Bice did a video of him taking the Tail of the Dragon road that you're talking about. And he did like a little video of like kind of like what you should do to your car to prepare for that kind of drive. Honestly, if you like even like the M Performance brakes that comes on our cars, and if you have like a good set of rubber in the back, like you shouldn't, as long as you're not like trying to drift or like do anything really, really crazy, as long as you're paying attention, being, you know, aware of your capability and your car's capabilities, you should be fine. Yeah, if you need to, there's no like absolute reason or rule that you have to go fast when you're taking the thing. Like, go at your own pace, right? If you really need to, pull off to the side when you can. If people behind you are really telling you, let them go, and then just go at your own pace, right? The most important thing is that you're enjoying the time with your car and you're doing it safely, and you've got nobody to impress, man. You got nobody to impress, so just kind of go, take it at your own speed. If the car feels a certain way, you know, just kind of dial it back a little bit, and you know, I just want you to be safe and enjoy the time that you have with your car. Edkin, is there a particular BMW engine that has oil burn issues? The M cars in general. Does oil burn happen with recent models? I've used Audi TT and Q7, both burn 1 liter. Yes, yeah, Audis do. It's something like with the V6 configuration or whatever. I had a G37, it burned oil too. Like the non-M cars, like from what I've heard, the B58 doesn't, the N55 doesn't from my experience, and neither does the N20 or N26. It really doesn't. But typically the M cars do. Usually higher performance cars, they tend to burn oil in general. And I wouldn't suggest switching to a thicker oil or using additives. Like that oil burn is part of the process. Just top off. So you just kind of have to factor it into the cost of things. It burns off oil, and unless it's doing it at a like an exponential rate, like if what people on forums are kind of like, if your oil leak is very similar to what people have on forums, then it's fine. Just top off at the regular weight. If you put a thicker oil in there, it's going to put more pressure on the system to accommodate the thicker oil. Wipe your detail. Waiting to purchase downpipe from CG Performance and then tune. Then I'm going to throw it all on at once. Oh my goodness. Okay. You're going to definitely notice a big night and day difference. Oh, I'm excited for you. Yeah, when that happens, let us know your thoughts and what you think of it. Very interested to hear that. And that's quite a laundry list that you have there to do. So I'm super excited for you. Oh yeah, that'll be awesome. All right, everyone. Well, if you guys have any other questions, I will try to link up with US Vision for that link, that Reddit link, and I'll pin it in a comment below. But if that's all the questions that we have for today, if you guys have anything else, feel free to shoot me a DM at VroomTuber. I hope all of you have a good day and rest of your week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.